Welcome back to the Sunrise Daily. It's 8 minutes after 8. We're moving on to other matters now. Well, yes, you do know about investment. Well, we'll talk about the Sovereign Wealth Fund and link it with the economy. We're joined now by Mr. Uche Orji, who is the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
As a matter of fact, let's start off with, when we looked at this headline, £3,000 UK visa, 6-month UK visa, you have people tweeting, asking all sorts of questions. This is just a pointer that we should invest in our country. You have people who leave the country, invest in so many other places, and then there is big questions. With all the money we have, all the budgetary allocations, we don't seem to be reinvesting in this country, and so there's a big question mark on that one. Sovereign Wealth Fund is about investment, but tell us, so far, from what you've seen, why is it difficult? What's going on with investing in this country? Because the other time, I think it was the Minister of National Planning, Shamsun Usman, talking about an investment climate here. What's going on?
Well, I think, first of all, I have been in this role for 8 months and haven't been out of the country for 18 years prior to that. And in the 8 months we've been around as an organization, we've spent time analyzing areas we'd like to invest in, preparing projects. And there are two things that I think strike me. The first is how powerful and how much potent it is to actually invest in this country from a returns perspective. It's really incredible when you look at the demographics of the country, the potential, the buying power that has increased significantly. But more importantly, from outside of the country, the ratings of Nigeria has gone up significantly. So there's a lot of interest to come and invest in Nigeria. There are issues, however, that make it a little bit more challenging for people to invest in Nigeria, ranging obviously from the reliability of the rule of law, ranging also in areas like project preparation. From our perspective, it's little things like project preparation that some of the things we've seen is people have rushed into projects without actually preparing it properly. And there's also the institutional framework that allows private incentive to come into investments in infrastructure. So some of those things are things we are hoping to set the template to correct and encourage people to invest. I don't see it as any more difficult than other countries were at the same stage as we are today. The institutional framework required to improve an investment climate takes time to build, and I think we've made a significant progress, and I think Nigerians should look at it from a very, very positive perspective. We have made significant progress. And I think that we are only a few clicks away, in my opinion, to getting some of the right infrastructure in place, and we'll see a lift-off in terms of investments. And I'll give you some examples.
Okay.
You can ask something.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, the Sovereign Wealth Fund then comes in.
Sure.
What is this fund about, and do we actually need it for investment to happen?
You do.
How?
You do. Let me give you some examples. In my previous career, I worked for JP Morgan, and there was a time when Abu Dhabi Investment Authority was my biggest client from London. And I went to Abu Dhabi several times. I watched Abu Dhabi and Dubai transform. I started going there from 1998, 1999. I started covering them actively in 2001. There is almost a coincidental transformation of Abu Dhabi with the growth of their Sovereign Investment Authority. Now, you can argue whether that is coincidence or causality. The reality is that you could not separate the two. You look at other countries also like Singapore, similar things. Norway, well, Norway is kind of slightly different, but Singapore, Abu Dhabi, China to some extent, are countries that have shown that there's a causal relationship between the development of these countries and the evolution of the sovereign wealth funds in two ways. One, it was seen as a vehicle for attracting foreign direct investments. So some of the things you saw were people leveraged some of these institutions to invest. What we think the SWF will do is to serve as a conduit for people who want to address Nigeria to look at agencies like ours as a place where they can co-invest. And the example I was going to give you earlier is that the amount of support we have received from foreign places. But this morning, I had an email from a big fund in Canada saying, oh, we saw you 2 months ago. Are there any projects you have that we can co-invest with you? Please come back and see us as soon as you
co-invest in this country?
Yes, in Nigeria. So that is the first thing you see. So the SWF, in many ways, in most countries, has been a conduit for attracting foreign investment. Why? Because most SWFs are shaped as private sector institutions, public sector institutions with a private sector philosophy.
How is ours shaped?
exactly the same way. So we see ourselves as a public sector company, but with a private sector philosophy. So we talk to them in the same language as an investment banker will talk to them. So when they want to invest in Nigeria, the idea is that we will put our own capital on the table with the same return expectations as they have. We'll prepare the projects in the same way that we will do it if we were Goldman Sachs or any other firm. But the reality is also we are a Nigerian-owned entity.
Yeah, but that's where some of the fears also come in.
Sure.
Because Nigerians see the way public offices are run, and they think, okay, funds, public, run as a private entity.
Yes.
What's the guarantee that all the funds that accrue to SWF will be properly utilized? Because that fear is always there.
No, I understand. There's a lot of distrust between people and the way they see funds behave in the past. Let's start with the way we set up our organization. It's very lean. We're probably 17 professionals, 8 support staff, 25 people altogether. It's not a bureaucracy. 2, it's an existential risk for us. We pay ourselves from the returns we make. So we must invest to earn a return to pay ourselves. So the organization is not run out of a budgetary allocation and we spend the money without any accountability. 3, we are going to be very accountable. We'll publish our reports annually. We'll explain to Nigerians who come to forums like this to explain what we have done with your money.
Are you saying that there is no, as Chairman said earlier today, capital is a coward, I need to flee if it's threatened? I mean, you're saying that there is no way that capital will flee? There's no threat to the capital?
Oh, there is threat to the capital. Threat to capital is risk, right? Mm-hmm. Is people look at risk, analyze risk, and decide whether they want to invest or not.
So what are the sureties you're giving? What support are you giving so that risk is not as...
To accelerate investors?
Yes.
Well, we are going to give them the surety that we analyze the projects properly. We will choose where to invest and where not to invest. We must not invest in everything. There are certain programs that we will not invest in. There are programs that we think will not make money, are not sustainable. And if they're not sustainable, they should be done through other means. There's a budget. There are other programs that intervene in the economy. But we will invest. There's a big difference between how we are structured and how other agencies of government are structured. We're investors. And we invest to earn a return, a risk-adjusted return. So when we look at investments that we want to make, along with our partners, and we've signed a few collaborations, you'll probably see another one this morning that we're signing, and we're going to sign about 4 or 5 of these collaborations, where we say to them, look, we go with you, we co-invest. We signed one with General Electric last week. We have one we're signing this morning later with AFC and a couple of other firms. And what the idea is to say, we will co-invest with you. Okay, and we will analyze it from the same perspective as you will analyze it. And if it doesn't work, we won't do it, you won't do it. So the surety, and I think one of the challenges I've had is how people understand our organization. You know, again, think of us the same way you think.
They don't seem to...
What's
the understanding?
Well, it's a new agency, right? It's a new agency. When people look at the evolution of excess crude account over time, from the Petroleum Trust Fund era all the way, there's always the tendency to think, oh, there's no accountability and, you know, there is no...
some say, no, just scrap it because...
Yes, it's a new agency and I think it will take time to actually make sure people understand what it is here to do. These agencies take time to build and let me tell you why. It's not always how you start a sovereign wealth fund, it's actually how you continue over time. Most of the funds we're competing against today started a long time ago. If you look at Abu Dhabi, it started in 1976. With a small amount of money, I think it was less than $100 million. Today, that's $650 billion. Kuwait was the first to start in 1956. With less than $30 million, today it's $250 billion. These things take time to build. Along the way, you build trust with the people. People understand how you account. And this is why I think people say to me, oh, Nigeria has only $1 billion sovereign wealth fund. It doesn't. No, that's not true. It's not how you start. Over time, it's how you build the fund. So this is an agency that takes time to build itself and build trust with the people. Okay, build trust with the people. Show that you can actually, you know, present a return and improve their lives.
But you will agree that $1 billion is a sizable capital.
It is, absolutely. It's a credible start.
Is the focus also on dragging or on foreign investors?
Yes.
Are you also looking at private investors, local investors?
Yes. We are. So look, this is how we define our vision. So let me go back and explain what this Sovereign Wealth Fund really is, because I think as I engage with the media, I realize that there's a bit of a gap that I actually take the blame in not feeling. But part of it is also because 8 months in, we have to build an institution. We've hired people, we've set up an office, we've set up an investment policy program, and now we're ready to start reaching out and explaining to people what we're doing. There are 3 funds set up by the law for the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. The first is the Stabilization Fund. The Stabilization Fund is a fund that provides cash support in times of economic stress to the economy. This will invest purely in cash-type instruments because it has to be liquid and it has to be in safe instruments. So if the government needs money, we can actually write a check and provide it to the government when that time comes. Most other countries in the world have that as a stabilization fund. So that's fund number one. Fund number two is a fund described as a Future Generations Fund. Now, that is a savings fund. The essence of a savings fund is to try and earn some return and provide support for the future generation of Nigeria. Most other funds have that. The third one, which is part of what makes our mandate a little bit more challenging than most other sovereign wealth funds, is we also have something described as a Nigeria Infrastructure Fund, which invests only in infrastructure projects in Nigeria. Most other sovereign wealth funds do not have that mandate. They have savings or stabilization, but many of them do not have the mandate to invest in domestic infrastructure. What we have decided to do is, well, the law is handed to me to implement. What we've decided to do is to actually start off by engaging other firms in a collaborative manner. So there are about 5 of these collaborations we're signing between now and the end of next week. The idea is to say, look,